hope you can see me. We're live. This is our, as we call it now, IT stand-up. We decided to choose this name in order to be more in line with what's happening here. So I'm trying to answer the non-prepared questions which you're asking. So as usual, you ask questions in a chat mode. I answer them. It takes about 1 hour. Any questions you like about management. This is my preferred subject. About technical things like software architecture, object-oriented programming. Also, you can ask me about career. This is the question you very often ask. And also about life in general. Question number 1. What do I think about Takera Kарлsson interview with Putin? I'm a little shocked by what I've heard. Yes, we start with a question about politics. This indeed was an interesting interview just a few days ago by American journalist and the president of Russia, where, in my opinion, they they discussed a number of quite important questions, and it's very good that such an interview happened. It's very good that the countries, they're trying to build some bridge between two societies, between two large groups of people, Russian people, American people. In my opinion, these people are not enemies, even though the governments believe that this is the best position right now, is the confrontation. But I think people actually who live there and who live here, they don't need confrontation. So it's a very good starting point for this interview. But however, I feel that the questions which the interviewer, the Takera Kарлsson, was asking to Putin, they were not as sharp and as challenging as they could be. I believe that the questions were not difficult for Putin, and they could be more difficult. And at the same time, Putin was answering, in my opinion, not as sharp and not as aggressive in a good way as he could do, as he does sometimes in different situations. So my overall opinion is that interview is just a starting point. It's definitely not the best these people can demonstrate. Let's hope that there will be more interviews, there will be more talks like this, and eventually these two societies, American society and Russian society, they will be way closer than they are now. How often do I listen? That's the next question. How often do I listen to some speakers at IT conferences? In my opinion, 90% of them are simply impossible to listen to. This is the question. I'm not saying that. That's the question one of the viewers asking right now. To be honest, I don't listen to conference presentations in the area of IT. Only when I need to learn something specific, like some technology, like something which is technical and which is difficult for me to understand from written materials. I can remember that happened, I believe that was like 3-4 months ago. I didn't know exactly how optimization, one kind of optimization, works inside Java virtual machine. So I was reading some materials which were available and I didn't find enough. So I started to Google and I started to search for presentations, for YouTube presentations. And I found a few conference talks which I had to listen to. But in general, just listening to IT conference presentations, this is not my type of activity. And even when I attend conferences, I only speak there. It's very hard for me to sit in the room and listen to what other people are saying. I don't know exactly why, but you're close to what I feel sometimes. I feel that conference presentations are not as good as they could be, and as polished, as well prepared, as well organized And I have even a few blog posts about that. I wrote about that a few years ago, where I criticize in general the community, the technical community. I criticize for making presentations with not as high quality as they could. So when I attend conferences, I try not to listen to what people are saying, which is, I think, maybe not good. I should listen, I should learn, I should practice, because my presentations are also way far from being perfect, and I try to learn how to do them better. But listening to others, it kind of demotivates me for some reason. So instead of motivating me, instead of challenging me and provoking for improvement, it gives me the quite opposite impression, quite opposite feeling. I just feel that people who surround me, who are the members of the community and who are in the room, who listen to that, and the people who speak, they like each other apparently, because they attend this conference, they applaud, they say very good presentation, thank you very much, and it kind of discourages me, because I see mistakes, I see that presentation could be better, and still the room likes them. So it's hard. I would actually like if we would have conferences where the speakers are more challenged, are more attacked in a good way by moderators, by the people who stand next to them and ask them to be more clear, ask them to present their thoughts better. Somehow, some kind of judges, I would say, who would somehow clear the way people talk. But we don't have that. We have just a room full of people who just listen, and maybe the speakers suffer from that as well, because they don't get the proper feedback from the room. They don't know what the room really feels. But at the same time, the room loses the perception, loses the understanding of what is high quality presentation. And again, I'm saying that my presentations are usually not of a high quality. I have a lot of mistakes, a lot of things to work on. Sometimes I can't even see the presentations I've done like 5 years ago. I feel embarrassed if I watch them. But nobody said that to me at the conference. Nobody told me that, look, you did it not as good as you could. So these slides are not perfect. The way you talk is not prepared well. So your chain of thoughts is not clear. There was no feedback like that. Sometimes people do that kind of feedback on YouTube in the comments section. They tell me about that, but rarely. Usually they just say positive things. Or if they say negative things, they're just general negative things, like I hate that speaker, and that's it. But very rarely people explain what was wrong in the presentation. What did I miss? What did I not pay attention to? I hope I answered that question clearly. Another question, do I have a couple of words about Navalny? Yeah, that happened today, actually. That was a shocking event in Russia. Navalny, the leader of opposition in Russia, political opposition, he died in jail. And there are so many versions of why he died. As far as I understand, the official version is that it was a natural cause of death. So he just died because of some problem related to his heart. But of course, we like to speculate about that and so on and so forth. In my opinion, again, it's just speculations. There could be different versions. There are multiple versions about that, starting from the natural cause of these deaths, which happens. Sometimes people die, young people. Sometimes people get heart attack when they're 30 years old. It happens, and then these tragic events may be turned they may be beneficial for one side or another. So here we can only discuss who may benefit from this event. So I think that the biggest benefit may be in this situation achieved by the opponents of the official power, the official government in Russia right now. Because that will provoke people to think that the Navalny was killed, and that means that Russian government is guilty of that. And it hurts Russian government politically. The global image will suffer and all that. So it's a negative. It will negatively impact the Russian government. Will it benefit Russian government somehow? It's hard to say. I don't think so. I don't think there will be some, because the guy was already in jail. The organization, the political party of Navalny was already prohibited in Russia. So they already stopped officially doing any work, any political work as an opposition. So they will already shut down. So what kind of benefit the government may get by killing that person, I don't see. It's hard for me to see. So and then it's only a speculation. Again, like I said, maybe there was just a normal cause of event, but who benefits, we can clearly see. Next question. What do you think about non-profit startups, or should there be financial motivation in any startup? I actually like non-profit startups. I think they are interesting to work on, but only for the founders. I don't believe that a team can work with no money for a long term. It's just hard to imagine. Maybe it happens somewhere. Maybe you know that cases. But first, I don't. And second, I don't believe in that. The founders, even if they make non-profit startup, they still have some goals to achieve, some pretty selfish goals to achieve. Even if they start a shelter for homeless people, and they just give food to homeless people just because they love helping people. Even in this case, I believe that the primary motivation for the person is to become famous, is to become popular, is to become potentially likable by some group of people. Maybe a small group of people, maybe just the family of that guy, maybe just a close circle of friends, but still a group of people. So that the person who organizes something like that has quite selfish reasons. And the people who work for that guy, they also need some kind of selfish reasons. They can't work just for, and it's hard to imagine that they will share the same reasons. Maybe some of them, but the majority of non-profit startups, they just run for money. It's just a question of where the money is coming from. The money may be coming from some founders, maybe from some sponsors, maybe from the government. It's impossible to imagine a team working with no money. Money is like a blood in an organism, in the body of an animal, for example. Without blood, nothing will work. The same for the organization. The money should flow through organization and keep the organization moving. All the people are motivated mostly by money. That's what I believe in, mostly. There will be, of course, other motivations. There will be, of course, other factors which affect motivation. But the primary motivator, when you work for somebody, when you work for a startup, it's just money. It's just getting comfort in your life. Next question. You've been living and working in Russia for several years now. Do you think the state of IT market is improving or deteriorating? I think that maybe I'll say something unpopular, but I think it's the second option. I don't think we're now improving. We are more like trying to restore what was lost just a few years ago, or maybe for the last 10 years. So the IT, I'm talking about IT market. I'm not talking about the entire economy of Russia. I'm talking about IT market. And this market was growing starting, 1990s, 91 or something. There were more companies coming in here, more programmers being employed, the larger salaries, more interesting technologies. There were Microsoft here, Google here, Intel here, large companies. They were employing people, they were teaching people, people were working for them. Of course, people were working for them, for American market. So we can say it was not Russian market growing, it was American market growing, and we were just a colony of that market, we were just helping them. But at the same time, this colony was technically growing. So if you take one programmer, one individual on the market, and see the technical possibility, technical opportunities for this person, then the amount of these opportunities, financial, technical, all kinds of opportunities, they were increasing starting from the collapse of Soviet Union. Increasing. So there were more options, more technologies, and like I said, more money. And then after the political events, which you know about, like 2014, when the West and the Russia, they started to go different ways, then large companies, they started to pull off from Russia. They started to close their offices, like Oracle, for example, like Microsoft. I mean, R&D offices. So Oracle, they walked away 10 years ago from Russia. And that means there are no more opportunities to work in Oracle, which is a leading company. And now we're trying to make Yandex and Sbertech and Contour, for example, local Russian companies, to make them as large as Oracle. But how many years it's going to take? It's going to take not 10 years, it's going to take 50 years. So we're trying to recover, but we're still far away from what we had 10 years ago. So that's the answer to your question. But this is about the technical opportunities for developers. So if you are now looking for super interesting, challenging tasks which you want to solve, and you want to be in front of the whole planet on the topics you're working on, in Russia, there will be not so many places to apply your skills, to apply your talents, as you can find in California right now. Not as many. I'm not saying zero. I'm saying we are recovering, so we're getting better every year. But so maybe the answer will be improving. Of course, you're asking whether we are improving. Yes, we are improving every year. But if you compare this year with 10 years ago, then definitely we are still behind. Next question. Why in Russia there are fewer and fewer vacancies for Ruby, but in the United States, for example, it doesn't lose popularity? That's an interesting question for me, because I love Ruby. I love this language, and I hear very often that Ruby is dead. Ruby is dying or dead. That's what programmers are telling me. And I'm not buying that. I don't think this is true. I think it's the language which not has a lot of potential, because it's a quite old language. I think it's very good language. I like it. It's very object-oriented, even though it's very simple comparing to Java or C++, but it's very easy to use, easy to understand, very compact, very flexible. Why it's a difference between America and Russia? I don't know. I don't think in America it's very popular at the same time. You can look at the popularity of languages on Stack Overflow survey, and you will see there that Ruby is declining. It's not just the statistics in Russia, it's just statistics overall, global. Why it happens? Maybe Python is killing everybody because of machine learning. So Python, apparently for some reason, thanks to Google, thanks to TensorFlow, PyTorch, these frameworks, Python became popular. And Python and Ruby, they are very close in their purpose. So they're both scripting languages. They're both for simple scripts, but at the same time, they're object-oriented. So you can create a large system in Python or Ruby, or you can write a very simple script of just 5 lines. And Python, for some reason, won, even though I don't like Python. I don't think that Python is better than Ruby. I think Python is worse. The syntax, the way libraries are managed, even though my experience is very small. I think that Python is less attractive to me than Ruby. Next question. You've mentioned some retreat you've visited some time ago. Can you tell more about it? Was it some mindfulness thing? Do you still practice those things? Do you think it helps you in work? Well, that was meditation 2 years ago. Indeed, I went to 10 days retreat. You call it retreat. It was meditation where you have no mobile phone for 10 days. You have no normal food. You have no normal sleep. You sleep from 9 p.m. till 4 a.m. You wake up at 4 a.m. and then you meditate your whole day. You don't talk to anybody. You don't watch TV. You don't hear music. You don't do anything. You don't talk to people. You don't listen. You don't even look at people. You're prohibited to look at anybody's face. You just sit down, meditate for 10 hours every day. Then you have lunch. Then you dream a little bit. You sleep after lunch. Then you go back to meditation. It was interesting. It was not as hard as I was imagining, because many people were telling me that I will not be able to stay there for longer than a few days. So I will escape. They were telling me it's so difficult. But it wasn't. I was able to stay there for 10 full days, and I left when everybody were released. Did it help? I don't think it gave me a lot of help, to be honest. Again, people were telling me that my life will be completely changed after that. So I will finish that meditation session, and I will be a new person. It's called Vipassana, by the way. And this Vipassana was promoted and advertised to me by my friends as a life-changing event. You just go there, you spend 10 days, and you return as a new person. I did not return as a new person. I was a little bit relaxed, and I can say calmed down maybe a little bit. But I would get exactly the same, in my opinion, if I go for 10 days on a seaside and leave my computer at home. I think I will return in the same condition. If I stay 10 days on the beach, drinking juice, swimming in the sea, I don't know, playing ball, I believe my condition maybe even would be better than after Vipassana. And my conclusion is that Vipassana is good for people with a problem. It's good for people with a mental problem. For example, alcoholic, when the person is alcoholic, or a person is suffering from some addiction, narcotics or sexual addiction, something like that, some addiction. When you're not comfortable with yourself, you need some treatment for your brains, for your mind, then it will probably help, because it calms you down. Many people they were telling about this retreat. When we finished, they were saying that I don't want to smoke anymore. I'm cured. I'm a new person now. But I didn't smoke before, so I don't smoke after. I didn't drink before, so I don't drink after. So there was no specific problem to solve. So and then I didn't solve it. That's it. So if you have a problem, then you go there. If you don't, maybe you go to some ocean and spend time there. Next question. The question reads as, I read the Elegant Objects book and I agree on many things, but how can I convince my colleagues and superiors to use those methods in their work? It's a typical question, typical one. Actually, I have a blog post about this. So if you can go on my blog and Google for Elegant Objects, the career killer, you will see that an article which explains what to do. Because for many people, it is actually a career killer. If you mention Elegant Objects and this style of programming to normal people in the office, then these normal people may eject you from the team. They may treat you as a not normal programmer. It happened. It happened to a number of people, and they told me that story. So now the general advice is to keep it to yourself when you pass through the interview. So don't tell your potential employer or the technical interviewer, the hiring manager, that you read this book and you like that book. And how to change the team which you already have. My advice is to try to organize some sort of trainings or some sort of technical sessions inside your team. You're not only writing code anymore, you should be having some sort of educational classes in your team. Maybe once a week for 1 hour. Just organize everybody who wants to attend and let them speak about technical solutions, and let yourself speak about, for example, elegant objects. But don't title it this way. Just get people together and say, we're going to discuss what's the effect of null pointers on the quality of the software. I know there is a book. This one says it's a bad thing. Another book says it's an okay thing. So I did some analysis, including the book Elegant Objects, for example. And I'm going to tell you what I think about it. They will listen. Some of them will criticize you. Some of them will be on your side. But it's not damaging to the team. You're not telling them what to do. You're not enforcing them to write code the way you want it to write. You're just educating them. It doesn't hurt to know or to learn a few new things. And then some of them will understand something. Some of them will decide that, okay, this knowledge may be applicable to the real work they do, to the everyday's work they do. And they start applying them. And then you make another session, another lecture about something else, about static methods. And then you do something else about getters and setters. And you tell them that you've read some articles, including this book. And the summary which you took from these articles tells you that there is some possible negative effect, and be as little pushy as possible, as little convincing as possible. Just present the ideas and say it's an open discussion. We can talk about it. And eventually, first of all, what you're going to get, you will gain the position of a knowledge provider. So they will respect you. They will like that you do that. Your management will consider you as a person who cares about the team, who cares about the quality of code. So that potentially may lead to promotion, may lead to salary increase because you do that sessions and nobody else does. You care. That means you care. That means you deserve a better salary. And at the same time, you make an impact on their mindsets. They may switch. They may hear something. But not everything. Don't expect them to understand everything immediately. It's going to take time, maybe 1 year, maybe 2 years. But at the same time, you learn as you go. So your mission should not be just convert them and make them better and make sure they start using new methods of programming immediately. No, that will be the side effect. The primary effect is that you become smarter, you learn new things, you prepare interesting presentations. Maybe you can even record them on video and publish on internet. So while working on your team, you will record 5, 10 interesting presentations about object-oriented programming, and you will publish them on YouTube. You become an author on YouTube. That's also a good point, a good check mark on your resume, on your CV. That's my advice. Again, hello from Argentina. Hello. Now, next question. When you lived in the United States, did you encounter discrimination between those who were born there and newcomers, or maybe discrimination based on the level of education, for example? I think the United States is the country where I've seen the biggest amount of discrimination on many levels, on many subjects, men, women, white, black, Mexicans, because I lived in California, Indians, Chinese people. There's a multicultural country, newcomers, the local people, old guys, young guys. It's very, in my opinion, very hostile community. So the community with a lot of conflicts that exist inside, even though on the surface, the America is the most they advocate equality. They advocate good principles of organizing the society, where people are being judged by their merits, by the amount of contribution they make to the society, by the amount of good things they do to other things. That's like an ideal utopian society. But inside, if you look at what people think and what they really think about people around them, you will find out that there's a lot of xenophobic thoughts in their brains. And I think it's because the society is very multicultural. It's very mixed. There is a huge mix of many things in America. Like Russian community also has a mix, but less. Ukrainian community is even less. Ukrainian community has just mostly Ukrainian people. There are some groups of people who are like outsiders, but in general, it's just one solid community. But America, it's a mix of everything. So to answer your question about newcomers and people who lived there before, there is sort of discrimination, but it's not like a public discrimination. So nobody gonna publicly say to you that you are an outsider, so that's why we're not gonna talk to you. No, they will talk to you. They will talk in most cases. But if you want to achieve something bigger, if you want to get something from the society, then you probably need to live there for quite long before you can claim that you are that you actually use the society, use the benefits of America. And that's why most people don't do that. They are not trying to integrate into American society. They just remain, for example, Russian people. I know many people who go to America, Russians, Ukrainians, Russians from Soviet Union, Russian-speaking people. So they go there and they immediately find Russian community there. And they stay in this community for years. Because there are many Russian people in New York, in California, everywhere I've been, there's a Russian community. And they stay there, they speak Russian to them. They go to birthday parties to Russian people. They talk to Russian people. They buy food in Russian shops. They buy everything where Russian people buy things. They don't integrate into America. They remain Russian people, just moved to America. And that's a pity to see that. It's not really what I would love to be in. And I was trying to stay away from this community as much as possible. But it's hard because the community is small and they care about every single member. As soon as you get introduced to them, they start pulling you in. They start inviting them to the parties. They start talking to you. They make startups, Russian startups in Silicon Valley. They make Russian funds for Russian startups. They even only talk to Russian startups. It's not really helping people to integrate into community, and that leads to discrimination, of course, because when you from this community try to find a job, for example, in a normal company, like a company which is completely American, then they will see you as an outsider. Your language will be not as fluent as American languages. Your understanding of American life will be different from theirs. Your habits, your lifestyle, everything will be different. And then you're asking why the discrimination, not you, but people will ask, why they discriminate me? Because you discriminated yourself on the first hand. You joined the local community. You claimed, I'm Russian. I'm local. I'm a newcomer. I'm an immigrant. So I'm not you. I'm not like you. I'm an immigrant. I'm different. And then why do you discriminate me? Because you have a tattoo on your forehead, Russian. Take it off. This tattoo. Forget that you're Russian. As soon as you move to America, just forget it where you came from. That's not your home anymore, Russia. That's it. You not betrayed your country, but you left your country. That's what I did. When I went to America, when I went to Europe, when I lived there for many years, I was trying to forget that where I came from. I was trying to integrate. It was not easy, but I understood. I was understanding that this is the way to go. That's it. That's the only way. You cannot be at the same time coming from Russia and remembering Russia and calling your friends every day to Russia, and at the same time being in America and sitting on Telegram channels where everybody is Russian, and at the same time going to the office in America. Forget all the Russian connections. Get rid of them and start building new connections if you want not to be discriminated. It's hard. I don't say it's good. I'm not saying it's what you have to do, but I'm not saying this is what you will enjoy doing, but that's what you have to do if you want to become a part of America. Since you moved there, so just throw away your Russian passport. It's a figure of speech, of course. So just throw away your past, forget about the past, and start integrating. It will take 10 years, but in 10 years, you will be able to say, I'm American now. That's it. I'm not in Russia anymore. Next question. What do I think about layoff in tech and global economy? We discussed this, I believe, last time, and I said that these layoffs, in my opinion, it's only an instrument to shake off the economy, to help the economy to do something more. Because the programmers, I said it before, I keep saying it, programmers, they're not being terminated. We're not killing them. We're not taking them off the market. They are in the market. They leave this company and they join another company in a few months. How many programmers do you know in Silicon Valley who were laid off and they have nothing to do for a year? They just sit home doing nothing. Even if they sit home for a year, they still, by the end of this year, they will do something. These people are not, they don't disappear. They with us, they are with us. And when they will join another company, everybody will benefit from that, including these people. They will get new salary, they will pay new taxes, they will pay some fee to recruiters. Everything will be good for people around the job which these people will do. So these lays off, they're not, in my opinion, I don't see the decline in the demand of technical services, of technical products. It's only growing. We just need more and more technical products. We need more and more technologies. We need more and more results, which only people can produce. Especially now with the appearance of ChatGPT and large language models. Now the amount of people that we need on the market is skyrocketing. We need more people, not less. If now we have, 30, 40 million programmers in the world, we're going to need 300 programmers in the next 20 years. We're going to multiply 10 times the amount of programmers we need. So what kind of layoff we're scared of? Yeah, just 1,000 people were fired here and then hired there. It's not an indicator of any fundamental problem. There is no such thing. And also, it's one thing is large language model, and another trigger for the market boost is the political problems. So now we have separation of the markets. If 10 years ago we had one global market with America at the center of it, now we have at least two markets. So now we have America and we have a new opening market, the market which is opening, which is Russia plus China plus Brazil, these countries. So they are just saying, hey, we also want ChatGPT. Hey, we also want NVIDIA GPU. Also, we want Google. We also want Amazon Web Services. So who's going to build that? So now we need to multiply by two, at least by two. We need to multiply the amount of results which were produced over the last 50 years. We also want Stanford to exist in Russia. We also want MIT to exist in China. Who's going to build that? Who's going to be these professors? Who will be these students? Who will be building all of that? We need more and more people because of this geopolitical separation of markets. And then we're saying, they'll lay off of 1,000 people. Who cares? It's nothing. It's a very small amount of people. Strategically, we need more. We don't need less. So don't be scared of that. If you've been laid off, okay, read the number of books, increase your technical competence level, and just go to another company. You'll be fine. Next question. What kind of questions do you like? You should be entertained by our questions too. Thanks for this comment. I mostly like questions about management, to be honest, where you present a management problem in your company, saying that, hey, my boss did this and I did that, and then it didn't work out, and now I'm not happy. This is the best question for me. I like looking at these management situations and analyzing them. Just giving my opinion of why it happened, what should be happening instead, how you should react. This is the best, the most interesting question for me. If you have that situations, just bring them in. I will be glad to discuss them. Next question. Give a couple of advice on how to manage with technical debt and legacy when you work with a huge project with more than 15 years of history, please. And a smile. Well, I think that first thing you have to understand is that it's not your project, it's not your code base, it's not your profit, it's not your business. It has nothing to do with you. You there is just a hired person who works for food. You just work for money, you sell your time and they buy your time, so they expect you to fix their problems. Don't do that. Don't believe that this is your obligation to spend all your time to fix their legacy code because they pay you. Treat this situation, treat this company as a playground for you to get something for you personally. And then you will not ask this question. Then you will understand that you are there because the company is in trouble. They have legacy codes. They don't know how to maintain it. They need your help. They're ready to pay you for that. And in exchange, they are ready to close their eyes on the fact that 90% of the time, you're not fixing their code. You're doing something else. They will be okay with that. Because it's not an interesting, challenging technical project in some very interesting startup where they know that you want to be with them, that it's for you, it's very important to stay with this startup, that you actually wanted to join it. No, when you deal with a large, huge legacy code, most probably they understand that the best they can find on the market is just average programmers who don't have a very big opinion about themselves, let's put it this way. And you're one of them. That's okay. I'm not saying you're a bad programmer. I'm saying use this situation to grow. For example, they have a challenging piece of code where the code is messy. Create a static analyzer which will automatically find problems in this code. Create a tool which will automatically refactor this code, which will improve it automatically. Create a tool which will analyze and find the most critical pieces of code in this code base and then highlight them and maybe suggest improvements. So play with this huge database as a student. Treat this as a university. Treat this as a place where you study, where you grow, and for the next 2-3 years, you will do something for yourself and for the open source community. And then you finish this company, and then you go to another one with something in your portfolio already. You're gonna get instruments, you're gonna get tools, you're gonna get experience, all of that you bring to another company where you will find a more interesting position, not just working with the legacy garbage of 1 million lines, but something more interesting. But if you are here now, that means that for some reason you didn't join Google, you didn't join Apple. Why? Well, there were reasons. Most probably you're not very well suited right now to Google and Apple. So make yourself suitable. You have time for that. Use these guys. Use this legacy code base. And actually, many people would be envious about this situation that you have, because not so many of us have access to large code base, which is legacy, which is 15 years old, and which is being actively developed. It's a very large and interesting study material. It's a large code base which many researchers in the world would love to get access to, and you have it. So you can publish a lot of interesting papers which analyze the situation in this code. You can analyze the history of this code. You can analyze the quality metrics of this code. You can do a lot of interesting things and publish these results. Not saying where did you get them, just saying it's a private repository, it's very huge, it's legacy, blah, blah, blah. But look what I found. Look how I found the correlation between the number of characters in each line with the age of a programmer. So I know that older programmers, they write longer lines of code. For example, I'm just kidding, but something like that. You have access to this proprietary code base because researchers, they have access to open source code base, but that's different story. Open source and proprietary code bases, they are very different usually in metrics. And most of the papers which I read about code analysis, they analyze open source repositories. Very rarely you can meet a paper which mentions the analysis of the proprietary repository. You have access, do it. That will be very interesting and at the same time valuable for the market. I hope I gave you some enthusiasm. Next question. What do you think about the situation where big company acquires small companies? Is it good or bad? Well, I think it's inevitable. It's inevitable. Well, it's quite maybe silly answer. It's inevitable. It will happen. It happens. That's the way market works. Is it good for a small company, or maybe that's what you're asking, I believe. So you're asking whether it's good for a company, for a small company, or it's bad. In most cases, in the majority of cases, it is good for a small company. Very rarely we know stories, we know situations where the company is capable of staying away from investors, from acquisition. For example, JetBrains is one of the examples. So they are a private company still. They have millions of dollars revenue. They definitely have a lot of offers from investors, and they definitely would be able to sell the company immediately right now, but they don't do it. So they remain private company. And for them, it's good, I believe. Well, they know better, but it seems the company is doing well. But most startups, they fail if they don't find a large investor. They just cannot operate on the market alone. They need a larger partner, larger company for not only for financial support, but for the market. So you need to get into a larger market, and to do that, you need connections, you need established channels of sale, you need established protocols and established mechanisms of growing the client base. And this is what the large company can provide. They just give it to you. For example, Heroku. Heroku is the platform which we use for hosting the websites, me including myself. And this company was alone. There was no investors there in the beginning. And then Salesforce just bought them, and they became Heroku. They became way bigger. They became way more powerful than before. I don't think it would be possible to do without this acquisition. So for the company, it's good. Is it good for the founders of the company? In most cases, I think it's also good, because the founders, usually they just take a large amount of money, a few $1 million, maybe a few $100 million, rarely, but it happens as well. And they just walk away, and they can start another company, or they can enjoy life. Because they say that managing a small company and managing a large company, it's two different activities, and most people cannot do both. Most people who are startup founders, they're good for small startup, but they're not suitable for a corporate culture, because when they acquire you, you become a member of a corporation, and then the corporate management style just knocks at your door, and you have to allow them to start managing you. For example, HR policies. They just start telling you who you can hire and who you cannot hire. So you're not anymore the guy who makes the decision about new programmers. You cannot just get the guy from the market and say, oh, I love this programmer, even though he doesn't have the education, he doesn't have the diploma, and he's asking 2 times more money than everybody else. I don't care. I feel a potential. I am a Steve Jobs who just can see the brilliant talent. The HR will tell you, no, not anymore. You're part of Salesforce. You're part of Amazon. That's it. You hire programmers, and the best salary you can give to this programmer is 10% more than everybody else. That's it. What do? You get angry, and then you quit. And then you go start another startups. You cannot continue to work in this corporate culture anymore. This is what usually happens. I hope I answered that question. I'm not a really big expert in that because I never sold my company for millions of dollars. Next question. I appreciate your channel. My manager overlooks my suggestions and dominates the development process, frustrating me, and maybe I need better communication skills. Any advice or books? So, as far as I understand by the question, your manager is... So I believe that you are asking this question and you are a manager too. So you have some kind of a development process. So maybe you have some small team of people who work with you. And then there's a higher manager who comes to you and overlooks, as you're saying, overlooks what you're suggesting and just, or maybe you're not a manager, but the manager, manager doesn't pay attention to what you suggest. For example, I'm just trying to take an example from here. So let's say you're suggesting to use continuous integration, but the manager says, no, it's not for us because I know what is better for the development process, and we're gonna do it this way. Again, try to go to my blog and find the article which is called "How to Manage a Manager." How to manage a manager. This is what you have to do. You have to find a way how to manage your manager, how to make sure that at least he is not causing trouble to you. So you can so you can be in some sort of a comfort, not 100%. He's not going to leave you alone. He will definitely continue to dominate, as you're saying. But at least some comfort zone you have to establish for yourself. It's could be different situations. Could be from a completely aggressive and completely negative, when the manager is really trying to step on your toes and sitting next to you every day and telling you what to do. In this case, probably you just quit. You don't tolerate that. At least I would not tolerate that. Or to a different extremum, where the manager just sometimes comes to you, maybe once a week, and just look at you and saying, hey, don't do that, do this different because I think so. This is not a terrible situation. In this case, you can protect yourself. So you first understand where you are on this scale of management domination, of management pressure on you. And then try to build yourself some sort of a comfort zone. How? There are many suggestions could be there, but I would suggest to create an expectations, or build an expectations, or manage the expectations of your manager. Give the manager an impression that the best he can get from you is this. So for example, he's telling you, implement it now, but you say, I cannot do now, I will try now, but you always give the result in 2 days. Eventually, initially, it's going to be negatively perceived. The manager will be angry, like, why 2 days? It's going to take 2 hours. But you say, yeah, I'm trying hard. I'm trying hard. That will take two hours. Yes. But then no. The next day, no. The next day, yes, I finally did it. And do it for every task. Even though it takes 15 minutes, you take 2 days. Eventually, the manager will adopt. The manager will understand that this is the best he can get from you. This is the expected delivery timeline, expected time frame where you can deliver something. And what you get 15% you're going to spend on the project, and then 2 days you have free, where you can do whatever you want. And then you do something which you enjoy doing in your life. That's probably the best advice I can do. Manage expectations. If the manager expects you to be responsive, he will continue to push you because you reply, because you respond, because you do what the manager asks you to do. And another question you are saying, what if you go to the manager with the suggestions and the manager overlooks suggestions? He just says, no, I'm not going to listen to that suggestions. In this case, I suggest you just don't go with the suggestions. Just do what you think is right. You think continuous integration is right, just do it. You know, as they say, it's better to, instead of asking for a bike, you better steal a bike and then ask for forgiveness. The same here. You don't ask for permission from the manager. In most cases, you just do what you want and then you ask for forgiveness. In most cases, you will be forgiven. In some cases, you will be punished somehow, but usually not severely. Usually the people who actively do something, they're not being punished for that. They're being corrected in most cases. Sometimes, very rarely, they may, fire you for installing the wrong software on the wrong server. It happens, once in a year, and we all know about these cases. In most cases, they will correct you. They will say, hey, please ask me next time when you integrate something, when you do something. You will say, yes, of course I will. And continue to do what you are doing. Just do and then see the reaction. Don't go to the management for approval. This is begging for rejection. When you ask something, when you ask the permission, you're begging for rejection. It's just not smart to do that. In most cases, you should understand yourself, what is good, what is not good for the company, for the project. And just rely on your own judgment. Be the judge for yourself, for your decisions. Okay, one last question and we're done for today. Okay, the question is how to work with a colleague who is very toxic, but at the same time, he's an expert. Also, management thinks that without him, everything will break down. That's an interesting question. I don't know exactly what you mean by being toxic. It's a very vague term, but let's say you're talking about a person who is just on a personal level is not likable by you. You just don't like him, and you don't even need to, or you cannot explain why exactly you don't like. But at the same time, the person is effective because, like you said, the management believes that we need this person. So maybe he's an effective programmer and he knows how to implement this particular module, and everybody depends on this module. So no way to fire that guy, no way to get rid of him. Well, the best I can recommend, if you don't want to quit, then the best I can recommend is to take this situation as a training, for yourself, as a psychological training. So when we go to trainings with the trainers, with the mentors, with those coaches who train us, we pay them money so that they train us how to behave in a difficult situation. You already have this situation. You're already there. You don't need even to pay anybody. You are in the office on a training playground. So take it as it is. Treat it as a synthetically or specifically, intentionally generated situation for you. Just look at it this way, and react to it. It's like just train yourself. You go to the office and first of all, of course, try to be as objective as possible. So you don't like the person, but remember, you must rely on facts. If you want to, for example, that person to prove that person is wrong, so try to find the proper facts for this. And you do it objectively, taking full control of your own self, of your own anger. Take control of your own frustration about this situation, your own discomfort which is inside of you when you deal with that person. So just take it as a practice, as a meditation, as a practice of anger control, maybe anger management, that kind of stuff. That's probably the best advice. It's a hard situation. It's difficult. I don't know what else to recommend. Maybe you can try to isolate yourself, but it looks like from your question you cannot do that. You can ignore, just close your eyes and don't pay attention to that person. Just look the other way and just do your own work. But since you're in communication with that guy and you have to work with him, then the best way is to treat it as a game. Let's say it's a session with a psychologist, and they put you into this session, and you have to deal with it. It's some psychologists, some trainers, some mentors, they sometimes practice. I've heard about it. They practice that task with the students. They ask a student to go to a street or to a train station and dress up like a poor person and start begging for money, start asking for money, and do it for a few hours, and then go back to the office and tell us what kind of experience it was and what kind of feelings the person felt. So put yourself in a harsh, difficult, dangerous situation and see how your body reacts, see how your brain reacts, how you behave in this situation. But then you, in this case, you pay to the trainer, you pay to the teacher in order to put you there. In your office, you don't need to pay anybody. You are already there. And then you can write maybe a book about it. Maybe you can write some blog post about it. Maybe you can make some summary of this. If you look at this situation from a higher perspective, from a bird's eye perspective, just look at it not from inside yourself, like it's you and that's that toxic guy and it's a fight between you and him. But look at it from a higher perspective. There is one guy, which is you, another guy, which is the toxic one, and there is a fight. How interesting. Why they fight? Because of this and that. Why one guy is toxic? Because of this and that. Think about like an author of a book. So think how you will describe this in a book later. And then try to react accordingly. So that's it. I hope I answered interesting questions today. Next time we're going to do it in Russian. We do one day in English, one day in Russian. Next time it's going to be Friday, also the same time, 6 p.m. in the morning, Moscow time, and it will take 1 hour. Thanks for coming. Thanks everybody for your questions. We had a few very interesting questions today. I'm happy. Bye-bye. See you next time.